Freedom Fighters, coming back at you with another one. Today's video topic is going to be about a comment that I saw from a dude that I follow. His name is 9mm SMG. Don't know if you ever heard of this guy or seen his post or anything. Anyway, he posts a lot of, cool Second Amendment content, gun memes and stuff like that. I've always liked his content, so I followed him. And then lo and behold, he turns out to be, a FUD type. And, this has happened in the past to a lot of people that I follow or something. Or you think they're aligned with your viewpoint of the Second Amendment and freedom. And, they'll post things pro-Constitution, Bill of Rights kind of things. And then you find out eventually sometime down the road that they're not really about the Second Amendment, or they're not really for it, or at least don't share your vision of it. So we're going to go over this tweet that I saw, pop up on my post and some of the stuff he was talking about. But anyway, let's get to it. It says here, I'm not actually a 2A absolutist. And then, in the comments, he was like, fight me over it, or, let's talk about it. And he says, I don't want my enemies armed. So, he puts this picture here of this, pink-haired troll, Aunt Quifa. She's wearing the, LGBT, trans flag. Yahtzee patch, and just the typical Reddit monitor, almost the stereotypical woke, what you would think of the woke leftist. And she's sitting there with, I can't remember, and who did I just assume it's gender? I'm not really sure what that thing was, but it's sitting there with I believe it was like an SKS or AK, style variant, something like that. I can't remember. I'm not looking at it right now, but it definitely wasn't an AR or something. But that point doesn't matter. But it was like, I don't want my enemy armed, and I was like, man, I hope you understand that attitude, right there, is what is going to get us disarmed. What has gotten so many of us disarmed. And I don't understand how you can be posting stuff about gun rights and freedoms and the Constitution and then have this take on it. And I've said many times, I've seen many of people I follow, come across this where it's Second Amendment all the time and freedoms and Constitution, and then they come across, well, but, not this, and I have conversations with friends and family all the time where it's really hard, the felon thing comes up a lot. And it gets really hard to get people to come past the point of felons, because when you tell them felons should, have firearms, or when they're like, oh, well, that person, was prohibited from having firearms and they did that. And I say, no person is prohibited. We have unconstitutional laws on the books that, uniform badge thugs decide to enforce, but, there is no prohibition. And then, I understand the argument, and from the normie perspective, they're like, oh, well, these, crazed individuals and people who have a rap sheet a mile long, and they have, 10 assaults on their record, and, they did this and that, and they robbed so-and-so, and they have home invasions and grand theft autos, and, all this stuff on their record, they shouldn't be able to just walk into a store and buy a firearm, should they? And, my answer is well, per the Constitution, and if you're truly free and these are God-given rights, then yes. But I also agree, that person is a menace to society. That person is, not doing any good, and obviously isn't a good person. And they should be sentenced accordingly when they are found guilty and, by a court of law, or by a jury in a court of law. But if the jury or judge, whatever, is sentencing, gives them a whatever minimum of their case, and it's like 5 years, you have to understand that person is getting out in 5 years. And at that point, all rights are intact. Um, but this whole, I've seen it a well, before, where people were like, oh, we can't have our enemies armed. And recently, when that Supreme Court, or was it a Supreme Court case or a federal judge that said illegal aliens have the rights to firearms? And there was a big uproar in the community, like, oh, they're arming our enemy, and our, the invaders have, rights, and they get to be armed. And I took a stance there where I'm against all this illegal immigration. I mean, my stance has been, proven on that, and I'm against all that. And they shouldn't be coming here. They should all, illegally. And I'm not in support of that. But everybody has rights in my eyes. Like, everyone has a God-given, inherent right. And if that's what we're believing in here, you don't get to decide that, oh no, I don't want them armed. And that goes for everybody. I mean, you can't say I don't like this group or whatever, this color of skin people, or this religion, or these, whatever these kind, because eventually it's gonna boomerang back to you. There's gonna be a group out there that thinks you shouldn't be armed. And there is. I mean, again, like I said, when you have this take, Mr. 9mm SMG, you don't want this woke leftist armed. Well, they don't want you armed. And that's what I was getting to earlier, where I was like, they've disarmed many people like this. AOC feels the same way. Gabbard, man, what's that? Gibbards or Gabbard, whatever the hell her name is, man. The gun lobby lady. Um, she feels the same way. I can't get her name, and that just like tongue twisted me up for some reason. But Gabby Giffords, that's who it is. But anyway, AOC, Beto O'Rourke, Mad Max, Maxine Waters. She feels the same way. You remember her comments of, weaponizing the government. We need to get the FBI and the weaponization of the DOJ to come down on these patriots. And, we don't know what these guys are, planning for a civil war, training out there in the woods. And, we don't know what they're doing, and we need to, we need to disarm them. That's ultimately what it comes down to. We can't have these people who are against us and against our, agenda and our political tyranny, training up in the woods with firearms. We can't have these people, having any means to free themselves from our tyranny. But that's exactly what it's in place for. So, again, and, whatever group you say, radical Muslims or something, they're in here, they're preaching, Allah Akbar and replacement, and they hate America and all this stuff. I still am like, it's almost a contradicting point of view, where I understand, like, where it's probably not a good idea to have those people armed. But my view is like, well, they shouldn't be here, right? I believe anybody that I'm like, man, we shouldn't be importing the third world and then bringing here where they have open access to firearms, because it's a God-given right. It's probably not a good idea to mix those cultures together, because accidents will happen. There will be incidents of, those guys doing something, which I've, talked to before in one of my nationalism videos and stuff. You need a coherent society and a culture, and a culture of people who feel together that they're a part of something and belonging to a central set of ideas and a culture and everything. usually don't turn on each other like that. But when you have what they call, this American experiment of the melting pot, where we just bring everybody in of opposing views and cultures, and then be like, hey, well, part of our founding document says, you can have firearms and shall not be infringed, and again, it's not the document, which I have to go into this again. I've been meaning to do like a constitutional deep dive, Bill of Rights kind of thing. But, I'm no constitutional scholar or anything, but it goes beyond that. It's a religious, it basically comes from religious perspective. And again, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, all that didn't give us the ability. It was an inherent God given, from the very beginning, you had the right. But anyway, man, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Let me know what you think. Are you a 2A absolutist? Is there no end to what you feel? Do you feel like you get to pick and choose who gets to own firearms? Do you have to ask permission? Um, and if you do, let me know why. But again, eventually it's going to come back to you. Someone's going to be telling you why you can't own what you own, have what you want to have your magazine, have your length of barrel, have whatever. And they already are doing that. It's called the ATF. It's called all these unconstitutional infringements on the books. But anyway, man, until the next one, you know what it is. We are on our own. Nobody's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.